This is Call Me in a Fund.
My name is Hibaaq Osman. I am the founder and CEO of Karama. It's a women's rights movement to end violence against women, political violence, physical violence, economic violence, violence of all its forms. I think my journey has been one of growth, one of resilience, and one of learning. I was very lucky to be working with women, learning from them, and it has been, it has been a great experience. Life has its ups and downs, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I really, every time I meet women, learn about their experiences, it just made me strong and stronger. And I would never change for that. I think the frustration always comes because women have, and I'm very lucky because I've worked with African women and Middle East, women from the Middle East, and they have so much to give and so many brilliant ideas. They know exactly what the solution is. The frustration is a lot of times you are not able to do something about it. You can, you can be inspired and inspire them, but their journey has never been one, or, an easy one. They are extremely resilient, but at the same time, they have the biggest smile on their faces, no matter what they are going through. And that makes you stronger. It teaches you humanity, because you can see a woman who is in a shelter, afraid for her life, and at the same time, you can see her combing the hair of her daughter and watching her sons and and children play football outside. Even though she's afraid, still she is trying to do, she is doing something normal for them. It's as if she is living still in her house and she's not in fear. So that teaches you to be really stronger, and it just shows you the compassion that women have no matter what. Or you will see a woman who ran, in Sudan, who ran out of her house with nothing. The house she has been building for the last 60 years or 40 years with nothing, but still, who has absolutely no passport, nothing, just only the clothes on her back, and left everything. But at the same time, you will see how resilient, how she is smiling, how she is remembering, and the strength, of absolutely, and the resilience that this doesn't have to be this way, I'm going to fight back. Or a Palestinian who has completely lost everything, but it still has that incredible fire inside that is resilient and fighting back and never seeing herself as a victim, but sees herself as a fighter. But you learn, you are stronger, and you say, oh my God, I have no problem. Look what they're going through. So that, to me, that growth, that learning, that strength has really made me a better person. So I don't really have, I think my life has been shaped by those incredible women. Their, again, resilience, their compassion, their strength, their spirit, I think that completes one's life. You find yourself in the middle of chaos, and you just have to, figure out how to navigate that and what's the best way to support, help, the situation, maybe make it better. But, politics is the pulse that, everybody really, it makes us alive, because without that, without having a deep understanding why war is happening, what can really change, how can we get people who can really come up with real policies, you have nothing. So it's not so, people think politics is, has some sort of a definition. Oh, that's politics. No, it's really the life we live in. How do you really bring security? The only way we can really bring peace to this world and human rights and democracy is if normal people participate, and if we are able to translate it into their everyday life. Your child just died, because they have the flu. Why? Because you don't have good health system. You don't have a good health system because you have corrupt governments. You have corrupt governments because there is absolutely no election. There is this and that. So you have to bring and translate. It's no longer, you don't have the luxury to talk about, oh, we need democracy and human rights. It has to be translated to normal people, and it has to translate into their everyday life. So what does that mean? Mobilization, understanding, raising awareness, and having control over your life, whether it's your body or your politics or whatever. The ownership of your land and where you live in, and having, and determining where, it should be heading. You have to translate into education, into health, and all priorities that people have. So you have to be able to do it. Until we are able to translate that and then mobilize people around it, we have nothing. We can talk about politics, we can talk about democracy, we can talk about elections, but this doesn't mean anything. One is, people at the grassroots level understand that this really are able, to translate it to their everyday life. We're not going to have anything. They need to understand that these politicians are executives that they are paying from their taxpayers' money. This is very important. Once they understand that, then they will say, you are working for me. How come I don't have school in my village? How come I don't have a clinic in my village? How come? So it's question, how come I don't have a law that protects me? My daughter has been beaten up, she has been killed or whatever. How come there's no accountability? So holding these people accountable. That's what democracy is. So to me, it's really having control over your life and what affects your life. This is what it is. That's politics. You want to call it politics, you call civil engagement, you call critical masses, whatever you call. It's always about the people understanding exactly why the situation that they live could be better, because these politicians are executives working for them because their taxpayers' money goes to them. Therefore, they should be responding to you instead of just going to parliament and, I don't know, doing what they do best, talk. I think the best strategy that we have is always to know that we really don't know, that we have to listen to the women, learn from them, and support their priorities. So for us, we are basically interlocutor, supporting, their priorities. We are not coming in and saying, well, this is really how you should be shaped. But what we also understand, the groups that we support, or the groups that we work with, I think is more like it, are groups that have constituency on the ground, who are accountable to their constituencies, who are trusted, who are known. So that our strategy is work with women who have constituency, work with people who are working on the priorities of their constituency, work with people who are trusted, So this is exactly our strategy, that we do that, because our role is very clear. Support what the woman put on the table, help support together, That's one. I'm building on their own, the work that they have been doing for the last 40, 20, or 10 years. I think that's very important because they already know what they're doing. The only thing that we have to always ask ourselves is, okay, these women have constituency, yes. The work they're doing is the priorities of their own constituency and their own, So this is what we're doing. That is our strategy. That's one. Two, I think we are at the regional level. So bringing this women together to learn from each other is also very important. But at the same time, the woman in Iraq could be talking to the woman in Palestine or in Morocco or Jordan or Egypt and saying, hey, this is the challenges that we went through. And this is how we were able to do this. So this is very important, whether it's the challenges of culture or religion or any of those. The barriers, a lot of times, is the cultural barriers. it's financial, barriers. It is, you know, I mean, a lot of times a woman has to, it depends where you are. Sometimes you will find a woman getting out of her house, and before she leaves, she has to think, what am I going to wear? How am I going to smile? How am I going to walk? How am I going? Woman, really, honest to God. I mean, we have normalized the unnormal, so it's just, being a woman, you have to have a strategy all the time. If you're a working woman, how do you really make sure that your children are taken care of, that your house is really in order, because we're being judged all the time. If we are in a working place, we're being judged. If we are a mother we are being judged. If we are a single woman who decided that, no, I'm not going to have a children, we are going to be judged. We're continuously being judged. So we have to learn, what strategy are we going to do this? How are we going to deal with that? We are in, some women are in a more conservative, countries where she's not even allowed, to work, but she has to find a way where she can really go to school, where she can do. So as a woman, I think we're continuously thinking about the environment we are living and how we're going to live. What is the, how should we do this? So when it comes to strategies, without really thinking in this fancy word, strategy, it's just living as a woman. How do you protect yourself? How do you live in a safety? How do you, sometimes how do you really not, be noticed? In order for you not to be noticed, how do you dress? How do you talk? And that kind of a thing. It's 5 steps forward and then 20 steps backward. It has never been consistent that women have gained all of these rights, to the right to vote, the right to work, the right to go to school, the right to be a politician, the right to do. It has never been easy. It has always been a journey and a difficult one. And then once you are able to do, how do you sustain that? And then it depends, and this is not over your control, unfortunately. Those who come to this, who become, what do you call, the so-called leaders of these countries, might be the most conservative, that they would basically say, I remember in 1996, when the Sudanese, conservative government took over, they fired over 20,000 women, and these were professors and diplomats and women who were holding important positions, and told them, go back and take care of your house. So we can never take it for granted, any of the rights that we have, that we have gained, which makes you think that you're continuously have to, make sure that, you have to do better, you have to get more people to support, you have to be aware of really what's happening and all of that. So it has never been consistent, but it's one that I can say for sure, the women that I have really been very lucky to work with and learn from never saw themselves as victims. And I think, when you talk about the Middle East and you talk about Africa, they don't see themselves as victims. Maybe other people, compare them to something and say, oh, victims. Never. They never see themselves as victims, number one. They have a lot of, they have, they are not afraid, they want to be in their own countries and where they are staying, and they want to make it better. And I think that gives them and they know better. Feminist women know better that it doesn't have to be the way it is, it could be better. This is why they're always, targeted. That this is why they're always, you have cyberbullying against feminists. You have women, who are being targeted with violence. You have women in Libya who lost their lives. You have women who are absolutely threatened with rape. You have women who are threatened divorce. They become a target. When they become powerful and articulate, are not afraid. I think the biggest concern for people, and I'm not going to say just men, but conservative ones, is a powerful woman. That's the nuclear. For them, that is the nuclear bomb. A woman who is articulate, who is strong, who knows exactly what's going on, and who has a constituency that you basically cannot really threaten her, put her down, or any of this. That is the nuclear, But I must say, feminists take the nuclear option, no matter what is coming, even at the risk of your life. You do what you need to do because you know it could be better, and it must be better for everyone. Women are not working just for women, they're working for the whole society. Now, if you look throughout history, and if you look at all these, fundamentalist or authoritarian, regimes, the first thing they do is target women. Why? Because if you bring women to their knees, then you are bringing the society to their knees. So this targeting women with violence is not something that just comes in, it's a strategy. Bring women down to their knees, control women's bodies, control women, then you can control the society, because we are the core and center of society. Yeah. I wish people would understand that when you hear the word feminist or women's rights, that it's not just a clique of women who are just working one part of the society. You have to understand that women are the core. Democracy is very important, because you need to bring leaders that are accountable to the society. You need to work on corruption, so that this, so-called leaders are not building the houses and buying Bentley cars, but they are actually building clinics and schools. But how do you call accountable? You can only call accountable if you elected them. And how do you call accountable? You call them accountable because they have to they're coming from your constituency. These are not outside people. So select people from your own constituency that you can hold accountable. You cannot hold accountable someone who came to your village only for the last 4 weeks for election. But you can hold accountable someone who has been living and is still living in the village. So again, all these great words translate into the everyday life. We have to bring trust in the people. Many people don't trust their politicians, because they were in the village for the last 4 weeks of the election. They never come back or see, because they don't feel they're accountable, because they have never seen them being accountable. And that's the thing. So there's a lack of trust. We have to bring back that trust and make sure politicians are accountable to the people and responsive to the people, not just having a loyalty to a political party that they belong to. Really, that's the thing. One is, the political parties unfortunately have become a club for men, and even the few women that you see are women who are loyal to the political party rather than to their constituency or to their cities and villages and whatever it is. There is a disconnect. So it seems like politicians really become above everything, above the law, above constituency. That's it. They feel that it's no longer, they would rather be part of the clique in the city and be, in the boys' club, rather than really saying, what, I'm working for my people, and we need the schools, and we need the clinics, and we need, protection, and we need, legal support for our people. That's it. There is a disconnect between the person who's representing you and the constituency that they came from. So make sure that, so that's very important. Human rights, of course, is not, it's not just a right, it's what makes you a human being. You need to feel safe wherever you are. You need to make sure that, when you are, wherever you are, there is a protection, that, you are protected because you belong to this line. A lot of times I feel like women really are, sometimes I feel like stateless, the way they are, they're dealt with. It seems like, they're aliens from Mars, that these are not people who really are coming from this country or from this culture the way they are. We are in a very dangerous, times, but we need to know how to work on that. But we need to mobilize our communities. We need our communities to understand the danger when a woman, a child, a girl child is not educated. She doesn't have the education, the awareness, the feeling that, oh, I'm protected. I can ask this with my own right. That's all we want. We want that confidence for the 9-year-old to say no. In Yemen, there was a story that a child was married and she took her. I think she was 8 years old or something. I'm not sure about the age, but definitely less than 10. And she took the husband to court. In other words, when they are given a woman or girl child are given the opportunities, they are strong. We just want them to not to be treated like aliens, but to know that they have something to fall back. That is the question that women really fall back to. Are these women's organizations? And this is why it's so important, because no one else is going to be looking at their, their interest or their rights or protecting it, except the woman, feminist woman. Yeah. And also what's even very important are also, are the ones that are supporting and behind. We can always, we can bring the constituency, we can, work with each other, we can do, but there has to be something, there has to be those who are also coming with the resources and saying, okay, great, because you cannot just do this by yourself. So Coleman Fund, for example, comes to that. I mean, they are supporting all this, visionary women, all this, constituencies, and also the sustainability of this, all these programs, which is, women in politics and participation. And we, without women participating and making decisions for not only for themselves, but for their own constituents and for the people. And, we will not have anything, because we need these women to be in parliament, to be changing the laws, making sure women are protected, women are participating, they're in the decision making, and all of that. You need the resources to do that. So, Coleman Fund and, absolutely sees that. And the other thing, of course, is they take the risk because they believe in you that actually this change could come. And you need that. So you need the resources, you need the people, you need women who are trusted, and it's a fantastic adventure. One that we're totally committed, because if you're not, every time you work with women or save women or whatever, you're saving yourself too. You're saving your own life. Yeah. You just don't need any, funder or any therapist. You need one with a vision. And I think what's different for me in all the funders and foundations, and I have worked with wonderful people, the ones that actually, have the money and want to people, who really understand and do that. But what is different from Colmena Fund is the woman who is running is someone who has been there. She has been in jail. She has been stripped out of her, passport and citizenship, and, put on a plane and landed in America and all this and that. That person understands exactly where they come from, what happened to them, and they are saving so that wouldn't happen to other people. But she gets it when you're talking to her. She gets it, and you feel confident because you don't have to, I think in American schools they have something called show and tell, like, you have to talk and this is what we are going through and all the blah, blah, blah. And no, but this person has been there. So she gets it. When you say, well, these are the problems, these are the women who went to jail, these are the women who are stateless, these are the exile, she gets it because she has been there. And that's exactly what you need. You need to work with people who gets it. So if you tell them for the coming 5 years, I want to really work on building constituency and all, she gets it, because no one by themselves can do anything, That's it. That also brings the other issue of multilateralism, that one government alone cannot do anything, one woman alone cannot do anything, one this and that. So you also need that international support and solidarity that also gives you that oxygen. Authentic. It has to be it has to be adjusted to your own priorities and your own needs and your own problems. Democracy is not something you can import, export, and do that, not at all. All it means is that people should be engaged. People should be holding their governments accountable. the laws in the country should be protecting you. And if there are no laws and policies, you create the policies. But that is the power. But the power of democracy, and underline that, is power of the people. So when you have a democracy, and I wish there was another word, because this word has been abused many times, but it is for the people, by the people. And that's exactly what it should be. For the people, by the people. And that's what I believe. To me, that's what democracy is. But democracy has to be adjusted to everybody's needs, everybody's priorities. Basically, people come, up and say culture and all that. In the Middle East and Africa, there has always been culture of audience, where people are always talking to their leader or their chief, or their king or whatever it is. So it's not going to be something that's alien. All it means is that you're holding that leader accountable. And that's it. And constituency that is consistent and persistent, that they are not only there for the day that you are going to have a demonstration, but they're continuously there. And the most important thing is that they are benefiting from this democracy. If no one is benefiting from this democracy, nobody's going to give a shit. It has to say, yeah, I actually benefited because that school has been built, that clinic has been built, my daughter has been, protected. Yes, my so-and-so is now in parliament. I can go anytime I want to see them. I can demand and I can hold them accountable. And if they're not responding to my needs, I'm going to get rid of them. This is the whole thing. It's engaged. Those who are absolutely putting you there can also take you out at any time. If you are not upholding the law of the country, if you are not upholding your promises, if you are not, responding and responsive, you see, that's what it's all about, But we need to translate that into our own, reality. We need to translate it in every everyday life, Yes. So that's what democracy is. Otherwise, it becomes a hypocrisy. I think as women, that's what we need: the protection that we need, the safeguards that we need, the laws that should be upheld, and the right leaders. And it's okay if women demand we need women to be decision makers, because it's only when women are in those, in parliament, or in any of those, or in the commissions, or any of these institutions, then and not any woman, a woman who has that feminist agenda or womanist agenda, or who is coming from the women's movement. That is when you can really say, okay, there's actually someone who represents me. Being a woman, being a feminist, and working with women, it's not a project. Project is not going to change. It's means to an end. But it's bigger than that, and it's beyond that. So we need civic engagement. We need, people engaged, but people would only be engaged if they know this is absolutely responding, to their needs and to their priorities. Democracy without people is hypocrisy. Democracy where only few are benefiting from is hypocrisy. And that's it. So Kolmina Fund is very important. It gives oxygen to all this vision and all these visionaries. They're important because this woman who's leading understands, because she has been there.
This is Kolmina Fund.